Hour, we will have a look back at the release of the Citgo 6 years later.
Eyewitness News starts now.
And thank you for staying with us this half hour.
Let's check back in on our weather with David Tillman. David, it has been 6 Houston oil executives were held captive in Venezuela. Known now as the Citgo 6, the hostages survived 5 years in unimaginable conditions until they were released back to Texas just last year in a prisoner swap.
ABC 13's Rosie Wynn caught up with one of those former hostages today about what the past years have been like reintegrating into society. Rosie?
Yeah, Elisa and Jonathan, to say that Jose Pereira is grateful to be home and celebrating with family this Thanksgiving would actually be an understatement. He tells me that he has a new profound appreciation for the little things like fresh air and a hot shower. And even though he is still working on healing emotionally and mentally, he is now using his experience to help other families who are without their loved ones this holiday season.
This situation that I went through really changed my life.
Nothing will ever be the same for Jose Pereira after spending 5 years in a Venezuelan prison. The nightmare began in November 2017 when he traveled there for a business trip as the interim CEO for Citgo with 5 other people. Authorities charged and imprisoned them for embezzlement, allegations they always denied. Last year, he explained what the conditions were like in captivity to ABC 13's Brooke Taylor.
Totally dark. And when I say dark, you can imagine how dark can it be. Where was, starving, no food, no running water.
That interview came just one day after the Citgo 6 were finally released and reunited with their families in Texas. Although it's been a year since the harrowing ordeal, Pereira says the healing is still a work in progress.
Nobody's prepared for this. And then when it happens, at the beginning, you really deny that what's going on. So it begins to evolve. So when you come back like in a time machine. It's literally like coming in a time machine.
Since then, he's used his experience to advocate for other hostages overseas, provide support to their loved ones, and raise awareness about the issue. As families gather and celebrate together this holiday, he encourages others to think of those who are not as fortunate and may be struggling this season.
Pray for them. Try to, in any way, support any initiative that push to get the people released.
Now, Pereira says that he wants people to know that there are still dozens of U.S. hostages being held captive around the world. He says that this is an issue that touches people from all walks of life. And coming up tonight at 6:30, he shares his perspective about the families affected by the Hamas-Israel hostage situation in the Middle East. Back to you.
Were taken captive by authorities in Venezuela. After spending years in unthinkable conditions, these 6 Houston oil executives were finally released in October of last year in a prisoner swap.
ABC 13's Rosie Wynn sat down with one of them who reflected on that harrowing ordeal, and this all, of course, while the Hamas-Israel hostage situation is top of mind. Rosie.
Thanksgiving brings mixed feelings for Jose Pereira. On one hand, he is extremely grateful to be home and celebrating with family, something he tells me he will never take for granted ever again. But on the other hand, he knows that there are still families out there hurting and wondering if they'll ever see their loved ones again.
When you're in a hostage situation, there is no holiday. Your family literally goes to the jail like you. It's not a physical jail, but it's an emotional jail.
Jose Pereira and his family knows how difficult this holiday season can be for the people being held hostage by both Israel and Hamas, as well as their families. The trauma is still fresh for them, as it was only 1 year ago when he and the rest of the Citgo 6 were finally released after spending 5 years in a Venezuelan prison.
I learned that the suffering that the family goes even sometimes can be beyond your suffering. Because when you're in that situation, of course you're suffering, but your family only not knowing how you are, if you're alive.
The nightmare began for Pereira in November 2017 when he and 5 other Citgo executives were on a business trip in Venezuela. Authorities charged and imprisoned them for embezzlement, allegations they always denied. Last year, he explained what the conditions were like in captivity to ABC 13's Brooke Taylor.
Totally dark. And when I say dark, you can imagine how dark can it be. Was starving, no food, no running water.
Pereira says he is still in his healing process and working with a therapist to recover from the traumatic ordeal. As families gather and celebrate together this Thanksgiving, he hopes to raise awareness about dozens of other U.S. hostages who are still being wrongfully detained around the world.
People have to think that this is something that is serious. They have to pray for the people that's going through this, and the people have to be more aware.
Reporting in Houston, Rosie Nguyen, ABC 13 Eyewitness News.
Another attorney is under